It's really lovely seeing everyone here today. So my name is Councillor Tabby Joy. I'm the chair of this committee. This meeting is being streamed live to the Cheltenham Borough Council YouTube channel, so hello to anyone who's tuning in today. If you ask a question at this meeting, then you'll be deemed to have consented to be filmed. And it's really lovely seeing everyone here today. So my name is Councillor Tabby. Oh my gosh. Sorry. I accidentally duplicated myself. Sorry, if you ask a question at this meeting, you'll be deemed to have consented to be filmed, and the possible use of these images and sound recordings for broadcasting or training purposes may be used in the future. Today we're not expected to have a fire alarm test, so if the alarm does sound, then make your way please to the nearest fire exit. So the first item on this list is apologies, but in fact we actually have a welcome. I really want to say welcome to Alison McCain, who's right here with me now, to the meeting as our interim deputy monitoring officer. So you're very, very welcome. Really excited to have you with us. Yes, I don't think I've had any apologies, but Councillor Horwood.
I just need to apologise that I may need to leave rather earlier than ideal, but I have to pick someone up from the station at 7:30. So if we're not finished by 7:15, I will quietly exit.
Thank you so much, and also thank you for using our train service. Low carbon transport, yeah. So yeah, that's totally fine. Stay as long as you're able, but otherwise, thank you. That's perfect. So item number 2 is declarations of interest. Do any present members have any interest that they need to state at this time? We're all good. Seeing a lot of heads shaking. That's perfect. Oh yeah, go for it.
So for the culture item, I'm a trustee of the Cheltenham Trust, which includes the Wilson, and as it was mentioned in the pre-reading, I thought I'd mention that in the case it is a conflict. But yeah, thank you. That was all.
Thanks so much. That's perfect. Thank you for bringing that up. I'll just make a note of that. So we also have the item 3 meeting minutes for our last session. So this was held on the 12th of January 2026. Does anyone have any feedback about the meeting minutes that they need to raise before I sign off on them as being a fair and accurate record? Is everyone fairly happy with them? Oh, Chris, go ahead. Councillor Day.
It's just, I guess on everybody's copy, my copy, it starts off with an apology saying, sorry, Cheltenham Borough Council, which I enjoyed, which I liked. Okay.
Very, very good spot. Thank you. Does anyone else have any feedback? Okay, cool. I will sign that off as a true and fair record, but I've also crossed out sorry. That's perfect. So it is the 2nd of March. I can't believe it's the 2nd of March. That's crazy. So I would like to move, wait, no, I was supposed to do this before I signed it. Should I cross it out? Hang on. Okay, I would like to move that members approve the meeting minutes held on 26th of September, if you're okay to vote on that. All eligible to vote?
Just hands.
Just hands is fine, yeah, don't worry, we don't have the screen. Okay, that's perfect, thank you. Okay, and yeah, I have signed that now. Sorry about that, that was a procedural problem, which will not be repeated. Item number 4 is public and member questions, calls for actions and petitions. So we don't have any of these at the moment, but I'm always excited to see those if they ever arise. So, you know, maybe someday we'll have some. We also have a cabinet briefing. So we have on item number 5, we have a briefing from, I believe, Councillor Hay and also Councillor Atherstone. If are you here as our cabinet member, or are you okay to just talk to? No pressure, either way. I just want to welcome you if you're... That's right. That's right. My poor brain. I'm so sorry. Okay. Councillor Hay, exclusively at this point. Councillor Hay, welcome to our meeting. If you'd like to give us a broad update, just to let us know about key issues for cabinet members that may be of interest to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, please.
Thank you, Councillor Joy. As it happens, of course, we had full council on Friday, and the briefing that I gave was the sort of stuff that I thought was needed at that time. But as always, I'm happy. So I haven't really, since Friday to today, there's nothing else I've got to update on. But if anybody's got questions, I'm happy to answer them, if I can.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from the committee today? We did literally have a meeting like one working day ago, so no pressure if you don't have anything at this time. Does anyone have anything? Okay, I think we're probably all good actually. It feels like 2 seconds since we had the last meeting. Okay, so yeah, feel free to stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like. But I think we're probably all good actually in this instance. How do you feel?
I may depart if that's all right, Chair.
That's totally fine. Thank you so much. Okay, so we'll just move on to the next item, item 6, which is our update on the Golden Valley social strategy. I need to try and talk slower, don't I? So our objective here is to follow up on a previous update that we had last year on our social inclusion strategy for partners. So we discussed this at our chairs meeting recently. We're really, really excited about it. This is actually an information and discussion paper. So I'd like to welcome today the Director of Major Developments and Regeneration, who's Paul Minnis, and Amy Keats, who's our Construction Project Management Manager, who also attended last year. So it's really exciting to be able to get updated information on progress being made here. I'd like to invite you guys to address the committee, if that's okay. If you're all logged on and ready to go, that'd be great to hear from you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you again for having myself and Paul to the committee meeting. Purpose of today is to really just to take any questions from the committee. As you can see, we've answered the questions that were brought to our attention on Friday, so I thank you for that and for the positive feedback received. I hope the responses that we gave were quite cohesive and answered any of your queries. Over the last 12 months, last year, we came to the committee meeting with the social value strategy that had been developed. Over the last 12 months, we've been holding monthly social value meetings with a number of members that have been invited over a cross-section of organisations. That has really brought a huge value to the social value work stream for Golden Valley. And we have been developing recently the Social Value Charter, which will outline the commitments that we are asking occupiers to deliver in phase 1 construction. And also the last 12 months, we have been delivering a lot of valuable and meaningful social value activity based off a consultation we took place in 2024, ensuring that we're actually delivering meaningful benefits before pre-construction and before the buildings even open. That was a very clear objective for us over the last 12 months, that we really wanted to start making an impact on Cheltenham and Gloucestershire and really get the word out about the good things of the Golden Valley development. So happy to take any questions today.
Thank you so much. So we actually received some really valuable questions from our committee so far. Does anybody who asked a question wish to follow up their queries for any further information at this time? We're all fairly happy. Okay. In that which case, can I open up the floor for any further questions for Amy and Paul? Councillor Day, thank you so much.
It's really, I guess, a very quick and probably very easy question. Just to clarify, the local sourcing suggested kind of requirements for people who sign up to the charter. I just wondered, would a branch or a subsidiary that's in Gloucestershire, located in Gloucestershire, would that count as being local if it's part of a much larger group that's maybe national or even international, but if it has a very, defined presence in Gloucestershire, could be a subsidiary, could be a branch, does that qualify?
I think those are the nuances that certainly need reviewing. We have actually outlined what local means. We've defined that in the Social Value Charter already. And what we've put and what we've agreed on with our partners, our development partners, HBD, is that the organisations, suppliers and services are physically based within Gloucestershire. So that includes, so really to answer your question, I think as long as they have a base within Gloucestershire, that would be acceptable to us.
Okay, that sounds really useful because I think just being within localised geographic area. And I think also I feel quite conscious that sometimes Cheltenham can potentially be, yeah, I mean, like we're relatively centralised, but I think in some ways just like offering it to other people in the surrounds, I think that's really constructive. Councillor Day, if you've got a further question, please go ahead. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, I actually needed the time to find the relevant bit for my second question. So under local employment and skills, it says we're going to prioritise recruitment from Cheltenham postcodes wherever possible, which is, I think great. But it prompted the thought in my mind that Cheltenham is a very expensive place to live. And I just wondered, I could imagine many people, aspiring to live in Cheltenham, but unable to until they secure employment or a better, more highly paid job, which hopefully they would get through this. So I was just wondering, I know it says you prioritise rather than you must live in Cheltenham, but it just prompted the thought whether that is perhaps slightly too narrow, in that there could be this group of people who really want to live in Cheltenham but can't. It's a chicken and egg until they've secured a good position.
Thank you for your question. It's a great question. Now, the whole reason why we've brought this into the Charter is from local feedback and consultation. And our particular focus is on where Golden Valley Development is located, and that is West Cheltenham. And as we all know, West Cheltenham has some deprivation areas that we really want to focus on in phase 1. That's our approach for our delivery for social value, the work stream. So the whole reason why we've prioritised recruitment is for people already living in Cheltenham, and in particularly West Cheltenham is what we're thinking. It's very difficult to put that in a charter based off a particular postcode, but what we've taken from numerous feedbacks from the West Cheltenham Partnership, Hester's Way, Springbank Community Centres, and their kind of leadership team is that at the moment, the Golden Valley Development is quite disconnected from those local communities, and they don't know how they're going to be a part of that. And we're hoping that this charter and this particular action will actually bring those two worlds together and actually extends into those communities, because ideally what we want is the local people of West Cheltenham to be employed at the Golden Valley Development, and it has that synergy between the new development and existing communities, and it starts to feel like they are part of it. We want them to benefit from it directly. So that was really the purpose of this particular action, and it was in mind of our feedback that we've been receiving throughout the last few years, really trying to link up existing families that already live in Cheltenham.
Councillor Chellan and then Councillor Carlos. Sorry, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. There we go. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. It was only to make a small point as well, and that is on page 40, section 5.3. The very final bullet point is about pairing students with mentors from local organisations to build aspiration and belonging. And I suppose firstly, I just wanted to check, is that school students or is that university students or any students? But I also wanted to make the point that, it's not just one way, is it? And that, the mentoring will hopefully have an impact on those organisations as well. So, yeah, sounds really good. Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of mentoring, I think it will really depend on what the occupiers can actually offer as well, because I know there's a lot of barriers for students. But I think you know, mentoring at all levels can be such a huge value, you know, from students to people already in the working environment. So I think it's open to interpretation, and we just want it to be something that actually these occupiers can aspire to deliver in whatever way they can support, really.
Thank you so much. Councillor Clapp.
Just coming back to the recruitment prioritisation, really. So there's a couple of points I wanted to make around this, and maybe a suggestion. So, in theory, I'm very much on board with prioritising Cheltenham kind of residents, right? But then at the same time, it seems slightly at odds with the focus of the Charter around the inclusive employment and fair access to opportunities. So obviously, Golden Valley is a massive development that's not only going to develop Cheltenham itself. So the fact that we're then kind of almost caveating and saying, oh, but you will only reap the most benefit if you are from Cheltenham, seems somewhat limiting, especially from a perspective that, you know, from a psychological perspective, there's already 1,000,001 kind of psychological blockers for people to apply to jobs, especially kind of jobs that are perceived potentially, you know, a bit too good for them, in inverted commas, is the way it's sometimes perceived. And, you know, you've got all this criteria that you need to tick, and it really kind of does not encourage people to apply for those roles. So if we're adding an additional kind of, not requirement, but an additional of, oh, by the way, if you're from Cheltenham, we will look at you first, almost seems counterproductive. So I'm just wondering if, rather than kind of publicly stating we'll prioritise you if you're from Cheltenham, it would just be, that energy would be better redirected to really strengthening local partnerships with the areas we want to target, and really making those opportunities visible, especially to them. I'm just wondering if that might be more beneficial.
You'll notice this particular action does focus on operational admin support and skilled or manual labour roles from Cheltenham. Our thinking behind this, just to give you some context, is that the West Cheltenham in particular is going to be most affected by this development in terms of construction-wise, in terms of change of landscape, construction traffic, you know, this is a potentially 10 to 15 year project. So it's going to be quite a significant impact on these people's lives in terms of the close proximity communities. And the only thing that we can have an influence on is these kind of, these roles that are kind of admin roles, skilled or manual labour, because, and the reason I'm saying that is because we are looking to attract kind of national and international cyber security, technology kind of companies from the UK and around the world. We certainly, those are highly skilled jobs. They will be recruiting from all over the UK, all over the world. We certainly won't have any, and we won't, you know, they'll be looking to attract the kind of the best talent out there. So we certainly couldn't impose any sort of restrictions on that. The only kind of influence that we could have, and we're not saying, you know, you have to recruit from Cheltenham. We're saying prioritise, think about the local people, because our promise for the Golden Valley development has always been to benefit Cheltenham and Gloucestershire. And I do appreciate what you're saying, but we are trying to have a really positive influence or benefit to the local people, and that's at the forefront of our mind. Hence, this action is very much steered in kind of the only way that we can have an influence on the employment sector of this development. I don't know if Paul wants to add to anything to that.
Yeah, I'd just add that we've been working in the social value group right across Gloucestershire with a number of organisations, including Gloucestershire County Council, GCHQ, etc. And one of the things we've looked at, just referencing one of the points you made about different types of minds that might come into this, and it's not one type, and we've been very conscious of that. And when we've talked about the training and skills and the education areas, we've been definitely looking to broaden that out. So I think there's and the paper kind of reflects the fact there's two main points for us in taking the strategy forward. One is the social value plan, which we're working up with the contractor, the appointed contractors, Bowman and Kirkland. That's really for that initial sort of construction phase. And then there's the social value charter, which is the ongoing occupiers. And in both instances, we'll be looking to, particularly with the charter, we'll be looking to attract all those different minds within the companies who are working there. As Amy said, there will be the need to recruit well beyond Cheltenham. There'll be the need to increase the workforce of Cheltenham beyond Gloucestershire as well. So we're very conscious of that. But we're also conscious of the feedback that we got in the workshops and from local stakeholders. We've done a lot of that in the last year. And I think that emphasis on probably helping first the most needy communities, if you like, and the ones really close to Golden Valley geographically, who are really going to be affected in lots of ways, not least by site traffic and so on. So I think that's where maybe you've sensed that real focus, initially, and it's really important for us to respond to. I guess one of the things we said we'd do, we'd really go out to the community, we'd find out with a lot of groups who needed what the needs were, rather than us tell people. And I think we've done that over the last year. So I agree. We'll take the comment away. I think it is striking the balance, though, and I think that's probably why you're sensing that Cheltenham first kind of emphasis. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, just to highlight, I'm not in disagreement with, the principle itself. It's more kind of how it's advertised. So it's the kind of external perception of it that I was not concerned about, but was more kind of my line of thinking. Hence why I was suggesting potentially, the much tighter partnerships locally, be it job centres, colleges, etc., rather than just kind of saying, we'll prioritise you if you live here.
Just to add to our response, we have been working very closely and now have some great relationships with the University of Gloucestershire, with local job centres, with Gloucester College, and local schools. So we have been going beyond Cheltenham, and I do completely hear what you're saying, but we've done we're so confident about our stakeholder engagement and we certainly always will enjoy challenges to just make sure that we haven't missed anything glaringly obvious. But this charter is specifically for occupiers to get inspired and to hopefully drive some fantastic social value. Obviously, we are looking in particular at employment and skills for directly Cheltenham to benefit, but in my eyes, the whole of Gloucestershire will benefit and will have more opportunities. I mean, you're more likely to employ someone local for these kind of operational roles than you are outside of Gloucestershire for a lot of kind of obvious reasons. So I do think the opportunities are going to be quite vast for the people of Gloucestershire, and hopefully we will start to see some retaining of young people out of university. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is we can take your point, but hopefully this will be seen as a positive for Gloucestershire as well. That this charter is very much based on very solid information that we've been receiving from consultations over the past 2 to 3 years. And so we really wanted to mould it into something really valuable for the local people. And so hopefully that will be delivered successfully during when the buildings go operational.
Thank you so much. It's really important having this kind of discussion, because I realise that we may need to consider robust legal implications of kind of the selection in this way. But I think in some ways just having the right promotional avenues and stuff, like I think the fact that you're working so closely with community organisations and just kind of, I also think there was mentioned, just checking, in my notes it says you've been working with St. Thomas More. Is that a church or a school? Just to double check. I think there was a mention of St. Thomas More, Tommy's, but is that a church or a school? I'm not sure. I think there's a food bank. Digital food bank.
Thomas More Catholic School in Cheltenham.
Okay, cool.
That's the local primary school that has been benefiting from free after-school club places for jam coding. So it's a coding club that we've funded for 27 of their children to have a coding club after
Amazing.
school.
Thank you. So in some ways, like just doing, community engagement of that level, hopefully it's the kind of thing that, people living in the west of Cheltenham will be over familiar with anyway. So, just being present, I think, is a form of self-promotion. So it just feels reassuring that you've been working on that kind of a promotional channel instead. And I think I do feel quite sympathetic with the reciprocal relationship you're trying to build, like if we're in positioning on the community in terms of construction, which may be a bit disruptive to them, just being able to give benefits in kind in a way, I think it kind of keeps everybody on board. I was wondering about apprentice schemes. I just want to check. Can anyone raise their hand if they've got any further questions? Councillor Chandler, if you want to go ahead, then I'll ask about my apprentice questions. Oh, you are. No, please go ahead and ask. That would be great.
So my question was about following on from my councillor friend. I wondered if there was an equality impact assessment anywhere, because we've just had a lot of equality training, and specifying that you are going to recruit from a certain area could disadvantage other people. So you'd have to be careful. My other question was going to be about apprenticeships, because that seems the best way to get people in from the local area, if they're not already skilled, if you like.
Sorry, thank you for your question. I would hope, because we've got to put a lot of trust here in occupiers, because they have to do their due diligence as well. And I can't imagine that the companies that we're going to be attracting don't have a very thorough kind of HR process for ensuring their recruitment process is really solid, and actually they are recruiting the right people for the right jobs at every levels. So that is certainly, and to be honest, a lot of these companies are independent companies that, are very much, their success is based off their employees. So I would imagine they would be certainly recruiting for the quality of staff to ensure their company is a success. But also I just want to note as well with the charter, this is the charter for phase 1. However, this is certainly a template for future phases, but that's not to say it can't change and be adjusted, because I feel like in phase 1 it's going to be a huge learning curve. What works, what doesn't, what was a success? And I think to evolve and to always ensure that actually we are creating the most meaningful kind of outputs, we have to evaluate at really kind of key milestones. So once potentially, for instance, this charter has in place for the first 12 months, we have to reflect on it. We have to understand, is this working? Is this achievable? For instance, does the priorities in recruitment work? Or actually, shall we branch that out to Gloucestershire? So I feel like this charter is going to be evolving throughout each phase of construction. And this is our very first kind of go at it, which we've had a huge range of stakeholders involved in developing this. So we're really confident we've got it in a great position, but we're very aware this will most likely evolve throughout the future phases.
Yeah, just to add to that, there will be under the charter, there'll be a board as well to review everyone's activities annually. So there was good checkpoints where we'll be able to review it during the course of that sort of early construction phase, and we'll be able to pick up, ensuring that equality is taking place. So yeah, but thanks for the question and duly noted.
Just checking, did we get a response on the apprentices scheme as well?
I sort of alluded to it in saying, were there plans for apprenticeships? Because that's a way of getting local people in from schools, basically, isn't it? And, people who may not otherwise be able to get into manual jobs and have an apprenticeship. So I just wondered if there were any incentives or anything there for bringing in apprentices.
I think there's 2 stages to apprenticeships. So the first kind of delivery of potential apprenticeships would be in phase 1 construction. Now, there is our contractors, B&K, Bowman and Kirkland, who will be delivering phase 1 construction. have their own apprenticeship scheme, and they will also have a KPI related to apprenticeships within the construction industry. A lot of those apprenticeships will come through their subcontractors, who they'll also be monitoring and gathering data of their apprenticeships, and they'll build that into their kind of monthly monitoring, which will then be sent to CBC to review as well. And kind of that monthly monitoring will ensure that we are tracking the apprenticeships within the construction phase one. For actually phase one buildings, it's very difficult, and again for legal reasons, for us to kind of ask for them to deliver apprenticeships. Obviously, this industry is high security, what we're delivering it for. There are quite a lot of barriers for apprenticeships, and they're not that common. So it just got very complicated. We did address it in conversations, and we were advised not to really approach that because it would be a very difficult action for companies to deliver. This is why we've made it so practical and so hopefully very achievable, while still being ambitious for these occupiers to actually achieve the charter actions. But we have had those conversations, but unfortunately for individual occupiers, I don't think we can influence that so much. I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Just to add as well to that we've been working, closely with partners like Gloucestershire College in terms of identifying the right apprenticeships as well, and the training for those for companies. So again, it goes back to the strength of those partnerships we've been building up. So I think it'll be really important going forward to maintain those, really, to ensure success in apprenticeships.
Thank you so much. I mean, in some ways, it's actually any opportunities that we do have to introduce them. It's reassuring to know that KPIs to actually introduce and maintain apprenticeship schemes with companies, and if we're monitoring subcontractors as well, it kind of feels like we're doing our due diligence in just trying to ensure that wherever we can include apprenticeship schemes, then we are doing that. So I really appreciate having insight into that. Does the committee have any further questions? Just give me a wave if you have anything you'd like to ask. Okay, I did have a couple of questions of my own, if that's okay. So I was kind of, I really like the social charter aims that we are kind of introducing. I was just wondering what sort of guarantees of support to maintain that we would be able to ensure, because I was kind of envisioning this as being like a mutualistic system where we could kind of sort of support people who may be a bit unfamiliar with the social charter. I don't know if that's necessarily the standard template for a lot of businesses. And I kind of just want to make sure that this isn't simply an aspirational policy. It's something that people are very comfortable with, that they're very familiar with, and they almost have like a support system in place. Is there sort of plans to introduce something like that so that other businesses can kind of make progress in the same way and sort of share experiences and recommendations for one another?
Yes, we definitely discussed that because the Social Value Charter for Golden Valley, the reason why we've done this so early, because really phase one isn't going to be completed for a couple of years yet. And the reason why we've started, and actually we've completed it now, is so our development partners, HBD, can involve this in discussions with potential occupiers who are currently going through kind of contract negotiations already. And this gives a very early heads up to those potential occupiers to say, by the way, this is the expectation. If you are going to be part of the Golden Valley development and take up space, then we are expecting you to deliver these actions as part of our social value work stream. So these conversations have started incredibly early. Years in advance. So I feel we are very much preparing these occupiers very early on, whilst also thinking about the support that we can give them. The Social Value Occupiers Board that we've introduced in the Charter will take place every year, and we will be providing a template of reporting for occupiers to complete to actually then review at this board meeting every year. If it is flagged that an occupier is struggling to deliver this, there will certainly be a support structure. What that looks like now, I can't really tell you. It's too early on, but that's certainly on HBD, our developers' mind, and on our mind. What will that support structure look like? If there are struggles, how can we support them? What will that look like? So I think that's certainly something that we'll be developing over the next 12 months.
Just to add, Chair, that you'll have noticed in the paper the different levels of commitment, and that will reflect the range of types of companies that we would have in the first phase. So they could really range from startups then to scale-ups through to larger corporates, etc. And the purpose of that is because if you're a startup company, you might, as you were suggesting, you might not know much about this. You'll need to be taken along the journey. You might then end up scaling up. So there are different levels which we've identified in this so that we're able to allow people to scale through as they grow.
Thank you. That's really reassuring to learn about. And I was also wondering a bit about disability confident employers as well, because this is actually a government scheme which sometimes isn't fully taken up. I was just wondering if it was something you were aware of or potentially going to be touching on through this policy, because we are quite lucky to have the Barnwood Trust, among other advocacy organisations who are pretty good at making recommendations and doing consultations with people with lived experience. So I was just wondering if it was something you'd potentially considered, but no pressure either way.
One of our long-term goals, actually, that was raised during the consultation of 2024 was to set up Golden Valley networks for particular minority groups, such as the one you're talking about. And actually, that is certainly something on our deliverables, that we'd like to set up these networks to support minorities like that. That would help recruitment, that would provide support in the Golden Valley development. And we've actually got one of our members of our Social Value Workstream in HQ who has already said they would provide support for us to develop our own, similar to what they've got set up currently. Because there are networks out there already for these minority groups that we'd like to learn from and that we'd like to implement our own on the Golden Valley development.
Thank you, that's really reassuring. Thank you so much. I know I keep using that word, but it's really, really good to hear your ideas about this. Do we have any further questions from the committee? Are we all fairly happy? Cool, okay. Well, we're probably going to touch base with you about this in another year, but it's really, really valuable hearing your input and sort of seeing the progress you've been making. Thank you for listening to some of our recommendations from a year ago as well. It's just really nice sort of seeing this changing. We'll definitely be really excited to meet with you again really soon. So I'm going to wind up that section for now, but thank you so much for coming in. This has been really class. Cool. So now we have item 7, the youth engagement policy. So this is to update, overview and scrutiny committee on progress being made by the No Child Left Behind programme to deliver a year of youth action. So this is an information and discussion paper that we'd like to welcome our Head of Communities, Wellbeing and Partnerships, Richard Gibson, to present for us. Thank you so much for coming today. And actually, sorry, Councillor Atherstone, did you say this is something that you're part of as well? Thank you so much. I was so flustered before. I'd also really like to welcome Councillor Victoria Atherstone, who I know has been doing a huge amount of work on this as well. Thank you so much. It's really good seeing you both here today. If you'd like to introduce your work and just give us a bit of an introduction before we head into questions. And then I'll just ask if anyone has any follow-up questions from prior ones, and then we'll get into discussion. Thank you so much for bearing with me.
Hey. Thank you, Chair. I just echo what Amy said. Thank you very much for your interest in No Child Left Behind. Thank you very much for all the questions you've asked. Hopefully those responses give you a sense of what we're being up to. Really pleased that Councillor Atherstone is here by my side. She will be able to answer all your really difficult questions. I'll just deal with simpler ones. The purpose of the paper is to update you with where we are with No Child Left Behind, update you about current activities, and set the framework for a proposed year of action on education. It includes an update on recent data and some of the engagement findings that we've had. We've spent quite a lot of time over the past 12 months engaging with young people. I think that's really important that we do that. No Child Left Behind is about improving outcomes for children and young people. Having that direct connection to hear the voices of children and young people has just given us so much crucial information, allowing us to really tailor our responses to meet their needs. Within the paper, we've got an update on some of our key projects, including the newly opened youth cafe at Smoker Joe's. Really pleased with that. We had 22 young people the first week we were there, 33 the second week, and 31 last week. So we're really proving that that has a need. And although this is just a pilot, we're really keen about how we sustain that, because I think once you're getting over 20 odd young people coming out, this is still winter, still awful weather, they're still coming out into the town centre to come to this youth cafe. So I think we're proving that need. We're also working with Gloucestershire College students with SINAM on the youth activity pass. Again, we're really excited about that. Again, that's responding to engagement findings from young people. They want to be more active and be able to take part in lots of Cheltenham's wonderful cultural, creative, sporting activities, but we know the barriers are really sort of financial and knowing about how to engage with those activities. So the youth activity pass, although it's not live yet, we'll be tackling that. I think I'll probably leave it at that. Just finally to mention the HAF programme. This is, it's a national programme funded through the DFE. Funding goes to GCC. We've been through a recent procurement process with GCC and we're pleased, subject to contract, that CBC will be the district lead for the HAF programme in 26-27. And I think doing that just builds on all the collaborative work that we do through No Child Left Behind. Hopefully that's stressed in the briefing paper. This isn't CBC driving it necessarily. We're the kind of the host and, you know, we make the magic happen, but it's really our partners that are so important to, and we really do thank them for all their efforts. But HAF is one example of how we can showcase all of the partnership and collaborative work that we do through No Child Left Behind. And GCC have recognised that we got almost top marks in the scoring for that HAF bit of procurement. So we're really pleased with that. I don't know if Councillor Atherton wants to say anything else or...
Sorry about that, got speaker problems. Yeah, just to say that I'm super excited that we've been able to launch the Youth Cafe pilot, because it came out very clear from the year of action in terms of collecting youth voice through various different engagement surveys and in-person feedback events, that young people didn't feel that they had a safe space to enjoy themselves together in the town centre specifically. And the location of that was quite specific in that it needed to be close to the brewery, on the high street, you know, close to McDonald's. And, you know, simple things like being able to charge a mobile phone, you know, accessing, you know, professional support and just an opportunity to socialise with one another. Especially during busy festival times where they might feel a little bit more vulnerable. So the launch has gone off to a flying start, and long may that last. And then with regards to the youth pass, again, as Richard said, all about you know, biggest barrier is affordability. So working with local partners to try to arrange deals and signposting for young people so they can find out what's going on, something that's made by young people for young people. That's going to be piloted with a number of schools to make sure that it's
designed in the way that is accessible for young people. And it's been really, really exciting, the year of action, listening to youth voice, because it really has shaped this year and also the future years. We know that there is a national crisis with regards to school attendance, which is really worrying and really sad. And it's not just the schools that are feeling the pressure, but it's, you know, the parents and the young people themselves. And as the report says, and as Richard just said, there isn't, you know, the Borough Council isn't there to solve the problem, but through our very, very strong No Child Left Behind partner network, we have brilliant organisations that we work with, including all of the senior and junior schools. And together, we're already starting to strategise to understand how we can support, whether that's the young people through our brilliant partners in youth centres, whether that's better collaborations at all levels, making sure we get funding directed to the right causes, and support for parents and community groups. And we welcome your questions. Thanks.
Thank you so much. This is such an exciting project that's being undertaken, and it's amazing how much has been done ahead of the launch of the programme in September. So it's really, really great hearing about all of this. I really loved hearing the questions from Margaret, from Harry, and from Jackie. Do any of you have any follow-up questions? Margaret, if you'd like to go first, please.
Yeah. Hiya. Thank you. I had a couple of factual questions, and then one. Perhaps I didn't provide enough information because it said uncertain which gaps being referred to, so I'll add what I was meaning. But one of the factual ones was 4,300 kids in Cheltenham in poverty. Well, I was wondering about how that was benchmarked against national levels. First, like, is Cheltenham actually much more affected than the national average, or is there, like that sort of assessment of the problem in the national context? I was curious about that. Yeah, I'll do it one at a time.
I don't have that information to hand. Or we've got the data for Cheltenham that shows the percentage of sort of about 15% of children growing up in poverty. I think we're probably not as worse off as other areas, as you can well imagine. There are going to be parts of this country where there are significantly more. But what we always say sometimes is probably worse off being poor in Cheltenham than you might be where there are more support networks set up. What surprised us most was the attainment gap for children on free school meals. In Cheltenham, that's far larger than the national average, which tells you a kind of story about if you're poor in Cheltenham, why should you have, on average, lower attainment than the national figures would suggest? There's something not quite right there, and it is a worry, and those sort of data points have been a major driver for No Child Left Behind ever since we commissioned the first needs assessment in 2018. The data on poverty always tells us that story, and yeah. But again, if you would like more information, Harry, we can certainly seek that out.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's interesting, and I can't. I'm often on gov.uk for my work, and I can't remember the acronym for the one I was looking at, but it was societal deprivation levels in Cheltenham had really high inequality, which struck me. And I sort of got that growing up here, but I did notice it was blue to red, and there was lots of deep blue and deep red basically, and there was less of the sort of lighter colours in between. So I get that inequality point. The second factual question I had was. So the year of action said it was starting in September 2026, but then there was a year of youth action endorsed as 2025. And just because I'm quite new to this, are they different things then? I was sort of reading them as the same thing, but yeah, could you just clarify that for my benefit, I guess?
Yeah, just to clarify, two separate, well, I won't say separate, linked, but 2 years of action. One about youth engagement, to hear the voices of young people, really putting that priority, as Councillor Atherstone set out, we need to listen and respond to those voices. And that, in turn, then, has informed the shaping of this year of action around education.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's useful to clarify. And then the final question was the one where the response was along the lines of where am I? I've got all these tabs open. Not sure what gaps have been identified could erase them. So I work for the Welsh Government in the Education Department, sort of ironically, but I don't think it is a clash of interest because obviously different systems, and it is different. But so all the things that you mentioned about like attendance, behaviour, those sorts of things are really high profile there for the Welsh Government there. They've got things, for example, like attendance was identified as particularly affecting people with special educational needs, for example. And I said in my question, those are really big sort of questions, and even for the Welsh Government, which is more directly involved in education, not all the levers are in the hands of, well, us, the Welsh Government in that context. So I was thinking, what was your thinking behind? Yeah, I'm trying to phrase that into a useful question. Into the understanding of the problem in Cheltenham, like whether it is these patterns you're seeing similarly there, and then whether you think you have the powers and the resources to sort of deal with that. I know you said in the thing that it's not about solving child poverty, which is fair enough. That would be quite ambitious, but just whether you think you have the relationships, the powers, the resources to meet the challenge, because it is quite sort of deeply ingrained.
Thanks, Harry. Over the past year, some of the engagement that we've had has also been with the County Council, and we hosted a session in this very chamber mid last year with lots of practitioners from schools that were sharing challenges around school attendance. And because of our No Child Left Behind strategic board that meets every 2 months, and very well attended by partners, including school representatives, we now know that there are particular attendance challenges from the transition years, from year 6 to year 7. We also know that going through the years 7, 8, 9, 10, there continues to be a drop-off in attendance. There's also, and it's multifaceted in terms of why, but yes, mental health is definitely a barrier, and access to the required resources that they need at the right time can also be a barrier. There's, I think not all schools have the funds in place to have the right amount of pastoral support. There could be challenges at the home. It's very, very broad, and we're not just working with the County Council, but we also do a lot of work with Gloucestershire Constabulary and linking up as best we can. So we're still identifying exactly how we can support, and from now up until September, we'll be working with our partners to understand what that delivery plan is going to be like. But yeah, we're in the very, very early stages, but we definitely know we can play a significant role in providing that sort of broader support.
Sorry.
And there is data that has been tabled by GCC to the board, but sadly we've been told we can't share it publicly, but it really does starkly set out, both in terms of fixed term exclusion rates and permanent exclusion rates, the massive leap between your peer group of children compared to those children with SEND or on EHCPs. There is a significant rise there.
Thank you. Yeah, really interesting. Dealing with some of the same challenges over the border, I guess. But yeah, thank you. It's really interesting to hear about it. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Margaret, did you have your hand raised a minute ago? And then we'll go to Councillor Chan. Thank you.
Hi. As highlighted in my earlier questions, that has to waste and also Springbank seems to be the prioritize for both the social value work stream and also the NCLB team. So I think they're very important because they are potential employees as well as the parents. So I'm really keen and looking forward to see how the two groups could work together to collaborate more closely and also to synergize the efforts. And also I saw that you mentioned the ongoing relationship with the South Yorkshire about the connection. So could you please share a bit more about what's the partnership involved? And also, why is South Yorkshire but not the other areas? Thank you.
I'll take the Yorkshire question, and that is really the result of that relationship through the Golden Valley Social Value Programme to HBD, and HBD are headquartered in Sheffield, and they themselves have lots of great relationships with children and young people, projects and organisations in Sheffield, and their key link officer has always been saying to us, because he now sits on the strategic board, I would love to get you up to Sheffield to showcase what we do, but also he's incredibly proud of what we're doing in Cheltenham, and he's saying you're probably doing more than what's going on in Sheffield, and that there's a lot of learning that we can bring to Sheffield. So it's really, you know, for Cheltenham colleagues to go to Sheffield, learn about what's going on up there, and then for what we're very keen on is showcasing what we're doing in Cheltenham so that the Sheffield colleagues can learn from what we're doing, because I think we're doing something incredibly special. So,
Come back on the other stuff.
and then, yeah. Go on.
So with regards to Springbank and Hester's Way, we have over 100 partners signed up to the agreement, No Child Left Behind, and included on the strategic board is Springbank Community Group. We have lots of meetings with all of the support organisations around Cheltenham. So yeah, they're also included, you know, historically in terms of like HAF provision. So we're very, very teamed up all across Cheltenham, but yes, also with Hester's Way and Springbank.
Jackie, Councillor Challen, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, really, this was bouncing off Harry's comments about free school meals and such like, because I work for a university and we also use free school meals as a sort of a baseline or a metric, and the indices of multiple deprivation, and to track learning gain from students from those sectors, if you like, and also intersectionally with other sort of protected characteristics. And it'd be really interesting, wouldn't it, to see how students, you know, as part of this programme, gain confidence to then continue on into higher education and excel there because they've had this grounding here. Not really a question, is it? Sorry.
Councillor Chandler, go ahead.
I just wanted to say what a wonderful idea the community cafe sounds, and the fact that it's been so well attended so far, and just wondered after the pilot what might be the plans going forward, because it sounds like there's a massive need because there aren't really youth clubs and things anymore, are they? So what would be your plans if you could at the end of it, or what might happen at the end of it? Thank you.
Thank you. At this moment in time, we've been really lucky in obtaining, well, we had a really strong bid actually for the Office of the Police Crime Commissioner, and they have a fund called the Problem Solving Fund. We secured, I think, about £9,000 to launch the pilot. And that is going to continue, I think, up until the 2nd of April. Now, because it's been so successful, we are exploring other funding opportunities, plus potentially looking at doing it perhaps on a different night. Yeah, so how we're going to extend it, I'm not entirely sure quite yet, unless Richard has information that I'm not fully aware of, but we're trying to evidence its need, and it's certainly doing that. Yeah. So I did an article actually for Gloucestershire Echo a couple of weeks ago, and I did put out a call to action if any local businesses would be interested in supporting. So we'll just use our networks to secure the funding.
Councillor Day, go ahead.
This is actually following on from a chance encounter with one of my residents earlier this afternoon. And that is, have you guys had any interactions with the Friends of Montpellier Skate Park by any chance?
Hi, that's a very good question actually, because it's been a while since I've had a chat with those guys. The age group is between 13 and 18, I think is the age that it's predominantly for. So I haven't spoken to them recently. We have done lots of communications online and promotions, but I will certainly reach out if the contact's still the same. And assuming that the young people are of that age group.
Yeah, because I've actually asked this guy or somebody from that group maybe to write to me with a view just to forwarding it on, because from what he said, within their kind of friends group, really on an informal basis, it's just amazing the parallels between what you're spending all your time, trying to achieve and what they're doing. And I think as well as there being some potentially useful data, there might maybe be something to be done there. And maybe it would be a good source of kind of knowledge and intelligence in addition to everything that you're already getting. But I'll see what I receive from them. But if I don't, if you maybe reach out to them, and as you know, they've got their website and everything, so they're easy to contact. Might be interesting. Thanks.
Thank you so much. That's really great. Does any other committee member have any questions or any recommendations that they'd like to make as well? Because it's really nice having this opportunity just to sort of see what's going on and learn more about it. I think that should probably be okay in that case. Thank you so much. This has been really, really uplifting. I'm really excited for everything that you're achieving. And yeah, we're looking forward to hearing how everything goes. I really hope Smoky Joe's gets to continue being a community beacon, really. And yeah, we'll catch you guys again soon. Thank you. Amazing. So moving on to item 8, we've got joint scrutiny proposals for the local government reorganisation. So I'd like to welcome Alice McAlpine. It's really good to have you here today. She is the programme lead for governance and legal. So if you'd like to address the committee. Yeah, okay, yeah. If you want to come over here, that'd be class. I know how curious everyone is about LGR, so it's really exciting to have this today.
Good evening, everybody. So, as Councillor Joy said, I'm Alice McAlpine. I'm Governance and Legal Programme Lead for LGR across the county, and I'm also the Monitoring Officer at Stroud District Council. Thank you very much for letting me take some time at your committee meeting tonight to talk through the proposals for a joint scrutiny of the LGR portfolio. To be clear, this presentation is being given across both the County Council and the 6 district councils. This is the 3rd, maybe 4th time I've done this presentation in the past 24 hours almost. So I've been at Cotswold this afternoon, hence why I was a little bit late arriving. So, why are we looking at joint scrutiny proposals? Claire, if you go to slide 2. The why is to provide accountability for the LGR programme across the county and for those charged with delivering it. It's to provide a sounding board to work through issues and choices that are made. It's to widen the political ownership and buy-in to the future governance. And it's to build the cross-council relationships and trust. And that's not just at the officer level, that is at the member level as well. In coming up with these proposals, Rob Ailiff, who is the monitoring officer at the County Council and the sponsor for this programme, also took into account political balance. So we've looked at different models and how they will have different implications on political balance, the ease and speed of implementation, the cost of setting up any kind of joint scrutiny proposals, the flexibility of the of the scrutiny model, because this is a programme transition that is going to change a number of times before we get to 1 or 2 new unitary authorities. Whether the committee should have formal powers of call-in and how often the panel or committee should meet. Go to the next slide, please. So this is just a very high-level overview of effectively the timescales with which we're working. The joint scrutiny proposals effectively will just be in place until we get to elections in May 27. In May 27, effectively, this could continue, but at that stage, the shadow authorities should take over the scrutiny. So we have got 12 months effectively to play with, which is why the timing of setting up such a panel has been taken into account. If we go to the next slide, we've got the 4 proposals which have been considered. So you've got the formal joint scrutiny committee, a scrutiny committee or subcommittee hosted by one council, separate scrutiny by each council, so that would be committees such as yourselves, scrutinising the decisions of your own council, and then a scrutiny panel. So if we move on to option 1, the formal joint scrutiny committee, strangely I picked up, this is what you have for the police and crime panel. So it's a formal scrutiny committee which is set up jointly between all the councils. Each council will need to take a formal decision to set it up. Each would need to then determine the terms of reference, including support arrangements. And so this would be by far the slowest form of committee to set up. Everything effectively has to be done before you can start meeting. Political balance would need to reflect the membership of all 7 councils. So we've done some rough calculations as to what that would look like, which are on the slide and the table. The meetings would be held in public, and depending on the terms of reference, the committee could then have the formal powers of call-in, but the consideration would also need to be given to whether this attracted a chair's allowance. Next slide, please. The second proposal is the scrutiny committee hosted by one of the councils. So this is where one of the councils that already has a scrutiny function, so just in case you're not aware, there are actually 2 councils within Gloucestershire that don't have scrutiny committees because they are still in the committee system, would have to be nominated to host the committee. It would effectively become a subcommittee of that council. The committee would need to follow the scrutiny roles of the host authority. There is a perception problem, to be honest, with this proposal, in that it doesn't give the joint perspective. It could still be seen as being owned by the host authority. It is quicker to set up than the first option, but it would still take some time, around 2 to 3 months. And again, everything would need to be sorted before the committee was set up. Almost most importantly, political balance would need to reflect the membership of the host authority. So on here, we've chosen GCC, which is county council. I am talking to our sponsor about the fact GCC could mean city or county, but this is the county council's proportionality, and that is the proportionality if it was hosted by Cotswold District Council. As you can see, it does have a quite material impact. Again, the meetings would be held in public, and depending on the scheme of allowance in place at the host authority, the chair may receive an allowance. The host authority would also be responsible for all the support arrangements, but it may look to the other councils for a contribution. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Effectively is just sticking with what we do currently. So each council will continue to scrutinise the decisions of its own council, which may seem like a simpler way forward. The problem is the impact that will have on the officers, because effectively you will be taking comments from 5, 6 different authorities, and there's no shared sharing. There's no sharing of ideas or scrutiny. So the fourth option, which is the one that we are recommending, is what is called a scrutiny panel. So it would still require a decision of one of the existing scrutiny committees to set up what is called a panel or can be called a task and finish group. It's more informal. It would have to follow, it could only be set up if your constitution allows you to set up subcommittees. I think the majority do, but clearly we would need to check that. It would best reflect the collaborative approach that has been taken so far to the reorganisation programme. It would not be bound by rules of political proportionality, so there is more scope to widen the ownership, also scope to invite other people to join the committee for a limited period of time. Terms of reference could be changed with very little effort because effectively the committee is in charge of its terms of reference rather than the host authority being in charge of its terms of reference. It wouldn't automatically incur a chair's allowance, but consideration would need to be given to how it was supported or resourced. This could fall to the host authority of the parent committee, but there is also scope for the resourcing to be shared amongst all the councils. It's also possible if you, with this proposal, the committee could move round the county. So despite the fact it follows the rules of a particular committee, it could then be hosted around Gloucestershire. It could meet in public, will meet in public, but there is scope for you to then start workshops which bring in other people. For instance, town and parish councils or other experts who you may want to have a workshop with without that necessarily being in the public forum. It offers more flexibility and could still make recommendations back to the leaders and the programme board. But this type of panel would not have the powers of call-in. I am going to caveat that because in any event, any committee as such, although it has the powers of call-in, those powers of call-in don't have much effect for this particular proposal because no decisions, this is to scrutinise the programme and no decisions at the moment are being made at the programme. Decisions are still made with each individual council. So if the 7 councils were minded, sorry, next slide, to go with our recommendation, this is what it could look like. So we are suggesting that we would look for 14 members, so 2 members from each council. 2 members would be nominated. We're suggesting that they choose a member from their 2 largest groups, and each council would be encouraged to nominate from the membership of their scrutiny committee. We are asking that the nominees, though, didn't come from any of the council's executives or executive committees, so that it does have the ability to still perform a true scrutiny function. And finally, next steps. So the chief executives have sounded out these proposals with all the leaders to test their view, and option 4 is their preferred option. And engagement with each council scrutiny committee is what I'm here to do this evening. If option 4 were agreed, we would then need to move into a phase where we agree which authority will host the panel. We'll have to agree how the committee will be supported, agree the membership and appointments of the chair and the nomination process, and then the host authority would need to take a decision to establish the panel. That's all the slides I've got. I'm happy to take any questions. The purpose of me being here is more to take your comments and questions so that we can refine these proposals.
Councillor Horde, if you want to go ahead. Councillor Hay, you can also ask questions as well if you want to as well. I just want to extend an invitation to you.
I guess I should.
Oh.
I guess I should kind of declare an interest in that I'm a county councillor and a member of the executive there as well, although I actually disagreed with the majority decision of both the county council and the executive. So I'm not that conflicted, actually. I've just got 2 questions. One is about the timing of it standing down. Did I hear you right, that you were suggesting it stands down at the time of the unitary shadow elections? In that thing, I think that's a bit daft, because in effect that means that the existing councils, while they still have executive power and budgetary responsibility and legal accountability, wouldn't be exercising scrutiny over the process. But, okay, that's my first question. I'll ask the second one.
Apology, I probably breathed a little bit too long. Yes, but clearly overview and scrutiny committees for each of the councils continue. It is just this panel that would step down, and it would not necessarily have to stand down. It just wouldn't necessarily need to. When we get to shadow elections, the existing authorities continue on, so therefore they are making the decisions, therefore their scrutiny committees continue on. But there would also then be a shadow scrutiny committee introduced. So you may not need the joint scrutiny panel at that stage.
I kind of see the logic, but the new shadow scrutiny panel, if indeed it was set up, I mean, it may not be. They may not set up one, presumably, for local government reorganisation, although it seems sensible. I mean, they might do it through their corporate overview and scrutiny or whatever. But to revert to then having 7 different scrutiny processes amongst the existing council seems a bit crazy to me. That's just my impression. So I would personally carry it on all the way to vesting date.
Have to set up a scrutiny committee as part of its day one activities. So part of my remit, once I get through this, is scrutiny is a statutory requirement for all authorities. So there will effectively be a committee stood up from the members who have been elected to that shadow authority.
Scrutiny is, but is scrutiny of local government reorganisation specifically? Or am I missing the point here?
The scrutiny to the transition period. The transition period will be over once this
Right, okay. I still think the existing councils ought to continue their collective scrutiny. So that's my feedback on that bit. The other question was on the very weird proportionality proposed for the panel. When all the other proposals try to have accurate political proportionality based on the election results, that alone has this slightly odd system of the largest group and then one person from the second largest group, which, I mean, it would be a bit generous in the case of Cheltenham, because that would mean one group of, which represents 3/4 of the council, would have one representative, and the second group, which only has 3 councillors, would then be expected to provide a regular attendee at this panel, despite only having less than 1/10 the number of councillors. But it could have really weird results elsewhere. I mean, I haven't got a list of who's the second largest group, but it could introduce some interesting political dynamics. And I'm not sure why you don't just follow the proportionality of the most recent county-wide election, or the aggregate of all the most recent district elections, whichever you choose, as you have done for all the other options.
We'd be happy to do so. You will accept that every time we present this, we get a different view. Not everybody's going to be happy, I would suggest, having done this 3 times now. But I'm happy to take that feedback and we can look at that again.
Does anyone else have any other questions or things they'd like to raise? I understand a lot of this stuff is slightly overwhelming, and I kind of feel like a lot of this stuff is, we're still adjusting to the whole idea of LGR in the first place. So we do really appreciate your patience, just kind of bringing this to us and making time for us.
I appreciate it a lot. So I won't finish doing this until the beginning of April. So if any of the members do have any further questions or feedback they want to provide, I'm happy to leave my email address and you can get in contact with me.
I think that would be very welcome, actually, because I sometimes feel like it needs time to settle in my brain before I can actually give kind of ideas. I was also, I feel like I had a question. I'm not sure what it is. I just want to open the floor and just to make sure that people do have the opportunity to ask questions if they want, instead of just listening to me wittering on. Oh, yeah, that's good.
Got a question.
Oh, yeah, Councillor Channing, go ahead.
I suppose I was just wondering what the other scrutiny committees had responded to you so far.
So a lot of it is around they want to maintain transparency of overview and scrutiny, so they would want to see meetings held in public. We've had some other views about who gets nominated to the panel. Some feedback on what we call it, and we've had some pitches for people who want to host already. We are not at that stage yet.
I guess it's always worth, always worth offering. We're wondering, are you going to share your presentation that you made with us? Do we get to keep a copy of it?
I believe I've shared a copy with Democratic Services here, and I'm happy for it to be shared after the meeting.
Thank you, that would help us a lot. I was also kind of wondering, do you know if there's going to be any kind of collaborative scrutiny committee? Would it be from a centralised physical location, or would it be online meetings? What do we have any ideas about that?
We don't at the moment. The advantage of doing this as a panel, I suppose the second advantage is it can be done hybrid. So you can have a mix of in-person, whereas if it's a formal committee that is stood up, you will have to all be in the same place, because they haven't yet introduced regulations or changes to legislation that would allow us to do it any other way.
I guess that's another factor to consider. Okay. Does anyone have any questions or anything? Harry, if you want to go ahead.
I hope they're really quick one, but I was just curious, listening to a previous answer, which is about how do you arbitrate disagreement or arrive at final agreement if you continue getting different views from everybody and people wouldn't necessarily agree for their own sort of part of the structure?
We will take everybody's feedback and we will then take it to the chief exec and leaders group, is my understanding. So say we're just looking to shape this properly outside the marching officer's sweat box. But there is already in place a portfolio board which includes chief execs and leaders of all the councils.
Councillor Hay, just before you leave, is there anything you'd like to pitch in on, or are you okay? You can give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. It's up to you.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I mean, we've run this in a very the leaders across 6, and that's, different politics in it all, but we've run the whole thing. It's been a bit cliffhanger at times because, we are all individuals and we're all sovereign councils. So we're all very protective of our own. But the government's decided this is what they're doing. So we have to embrace that and be grown-ups as political leaders, which is pretty much what we've done. As I say, there's going to be more choppy roads, I'm sure, but I think, we will come to a collective agreement between the chief execs and the political leads that hopefully will then pull, as I would call them, that panel together as it's basically, we want you to be involved, but you can only take a horse to water. You can't make it drink. And as was said, it's quite likely and possible, well, not likely, but quite possible that actually you're not going to get 100% consensus. But that's, somebody's got, just need to be the grown-up in the room. Thank you.
Thank you. Personally, I always welcome being reminded that I am a grown-up because I tend to dress like a 13-year-old. Thank you. So I think we could probably leave it at that, but we will probably follow up with further questions for you. Is there anything you'd like to say just to summarise or anything that we may need to bear in mind?
No, so thank you very much for your time. And the one thing I will add is that there is going to be a legal and governance and legal programme board as well, which Alison will be joining. So there'll be plenty of routes into that to help shape. This is the beginning of a governance journey. I am one of those really sad people. I get quite excited about this, and I think it presents real opportunities, both for officers and for members, to shape something which will be really good for everybody.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your, passionate commitment. Honestly, local government really thrives on energy like that. So, don't feel self-conscious about it. We really, really welcome that. Thank you so much for coming today. This has been really class. Cool. So, we've only got a couple of relatively nominal items now. So, we have item number 9, the culture board, which so this is just a briefing paper. So we don't have to make any sort of decisions on it. We also don't have capacity to take any questions on it. This is literally just updated terms of reference for the culture board, since their work on this is kind of in progress. They kind of want to ensure that they're adequately assessing success against the metrics set out in the terms of reference. So if anyone has any feedback on that or any questions, then please send them to Democratic Services, and then we can basically take into account any ideas that people have. I just wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of this stuff for reference. We also have item number 10, so feedback from other scrutiny meetings attended. So we were doing something for a little while where we would invite attendees of external scrutiny meetings to come and present things. But tonight's been a very busy meeting, and we are kind of finding that there's enough on the work programme that we don't necessarily have time to explore the wide implications of reports drawn out. So I hope that everyone's satisfied with the changes that we've made in that regard. Councillor Chellan, if you'd like to go ahead.
Just to say, though, that if we do have questions, we just go straight to the rep, don't we? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that clarification. So if anyone does have questions about those reports, please go directly to the representative. Please feel free to check in with other people if you're doing that, because chances are other people might be also interested. I think we should probably clarify the best structure by which to do that. Would it make sense, just checking with Democratic Services, does it make sense to email Democratic Services with questions for scrutiny, like external scrutiny, or should we just go directly to them? What would you prefer?
To the councillor who attends the scrutiny group.
Okay.
I don't think in this instance you need me to facilitate it, because I'm sure
You don't want even more meetings or emails?
not necessarily. I guess if in the instance you're not having much joy with the member you're trying to get hold of, then by all means contact me and I'll do the do. But no, I don't necessarily think, unless you want to make it as formally as part of the meeting.
Yeah.
Then I don't see that we need to be necessarily copied in or have any involvement. It's up to you.
So I guess maybe as a compromise, if that sounds okay for everyone else, we could, like, anyone has the capacity to approach, whether as a member of ONS or as an ordinary member, because I think I've done this a bit in the past where it's not necessarily relevant or pertinent to the businesses of overviewing scrutiny to ask questions of people representing on external groups. However, if you do have a subject that's of interest and you want to bring it to the work plan, then you could basically ask questions of external committee members one-on-one, and then bring it to wider work plan, if you think it's something that has scope for wider investigation. I was actually, I don't want to sound like I'm waffling or anything, but I was actually at quite an interesting meeting of the Southwest Scrutiny Group Committee recently. It was literally just this morning, and they were saying that there's actually several different mechanisms that overview and scrutiny committees can use in order to analyse and sort of investigate and learn more about topics. I'll see if I can write that up, and I'll send that to everyone on this committee, because just being able to be aware of the tools and mechanisms we can use. I just want to make sure that we're exploring all the options, and kind of, if there is an urgent issue, we do have a pretty well-functioning chairs group, but I also want to make sure people can participate as much as they're interested in. So I hope, does that clarify everything? If you want to have discussions one-on-one with attendees of scrutiny meetings, but then raise it to work plan, if you would like to explore that in more detail, we can have a more formalised approach. So again, if you have any questions about that, then give me or Democratic Services, or I'm sorry, Councillor Cheltenham, but I'm just going to like nominate you as a person that other people can talk to as well, just because you're so active in our chairs group. You're also my extremely reliable deputy, so and any sort of chair's privileges I get ought to be yours too. So I think we have, in terms of feedback, we have an update from Councillor Bamford for the committee attended on the 27th of January. We don't have an update for the Gloucestershire Economic Strategy Scrutiny Committee, but we do have an update from the Gloucestershire Police and Crime Panel meeting for the 2nd of February, so that's a supplement that's available in your packs. And just moving on, item 11 is updates from scrutiny task groups, which we don't have any active task groups at the moment. Again, you know, drawing on the work plan idea, if anybody does have queries that may come under the remit of formulating a scrutiny task group, obviously that's always up for discussion, so just hit us up. Item number, what is this? 12, I guess. Sorry, my notes aren't completely in order. Yeah, item number 12 is the review of the scrutiny work plan. Does anyone have any suggestions or anything they'd like to potentially consider for the work plan going ahead? Okay, but if you change your minds, then please email me. I'm always very happy to talk about this. We have item number 11, any other item that the chair, that's myself, determines to be urgent, and I don't think there's anything. Yes, I was actually kind of going to touch on this, so no, don't apologise. Thank you for reminding me, otherwise that could have been awkward. So we have had a bit of discussion with regards to the date of the next meeting. We were going to hold it on the 30th of March, which would also have been Claire's birthday, so we would have had cake. Unfortunately, we're no longer having cake because we're no longer having the meeting. It is in the pre-election period. Claire can actually just have a totally uninterrupted birthday, so that's actually quite exciting. You get to have like a full week for birthdays, is my personal belief. But we are going to try and figure out when best to have our next meeting. We were thinking it might be July. That feels like a really long time away. So we're going to see maybe about April? June, yeah. We will also be having the, so that'll be after the elections, but we'll also probably be having, I think, our induction session. Is this actually going to be like our last meeting now before the elections? Okay, that kind of stresses me out a little bit. Okay, yeah, this is actually our last meeting before the elections. I hope to see as many people as possible on the other side, as it were. It has been a genuine joy and pleasure working with everyone. Thank you for making Overview and Scrutiny the light of my life. But yeah, I hope the next couple of months treats everyone well. And thanks so much for joining us tonight. It's been class. See you later. Thanks.